Good afternoon, everyone. Terry Gregory with RSA Solutions. Wanted to thank you for joining our broadcast today. I have Aaron Continelli, president of Creative, that manages and implements ERPs all over, what'd you say, Aaron, North America or the world?
All North America is where we specialize.
North America. Fantastic. So, and we're going to start out just a little bit of housekeeping. We're going to go through this presentation to kind of talk about the, a pretty high level of ERP systems. Then Karen's going to dive a little deeper into our specific application. And then after that's accomplished, we'll follow up with 10 to 15 minute questions of anything else that might come up. So if you have any questions, you'll just type them in toward the end of it. I'll read your question, and then we'll answer it appropriately. So with that said, I'd like to go ahead and get started. I'm going to step away for just a quick second, shut this door so I don't get an echo. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. So we're going to talk a little bit about really data management, ERP systems, what they're designed to do, how they work, and why they work. But, the ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. And if you think about that, you break it down a little bit, the enterprise is, of course, your business. And it can be a small company with no more than 10, 15 employees, or it could be thousands of employees. It can be one location, multiple locations. So an enterprise is painting with a broad paintbrush. It's your business. And then when you think of the second word, resources, it's all the things in your business that need to be managed. It can be employees, it can be software automation, it can be machinery, it can be subcontractors, it can be any amount of resources that allow you to do what you do every day. And then, of course, the last word is planning. It's the ability to plan those resources in your business. If you make a great plan, of course, that gives you where you want your benchmarks for success, where are you at today, where you want to be in 6 months, where you want to be in a year. So ERP, in a nutshell, is really managing your business's data. Managed well, businesses can look at that data, make intelligent business decisions on where to grow, where to cut back, and how to maneuver forward. Without that, you end up leaving a lot of holes and a lot of guesswork. And how do I do this, or what's my profit ratios, or where should I buy a second machine or should I not? If you don't have the accurate data to measure it, you're spending a lot of your time guessing. So in going back to the word ERP, there's if you search that on Google, you'll find thousands of ERPs. There's generic ones that are designed for companies in a very broad horizontal market. So this one ERP will fit, manufacturing, aerospace, automotive. Let me rephrase that. They like you to think it will. So it's designed to be low cost, does about 50, 60, or 30% or whatever number you want to play with of what you really need to do to manage your business, but you take it and live with it as it is, because it's a horizontal market, ERP. When you get into vertical markets, then you get into a more creative and more designed specifically for an industry. So an automotive ERP wouldn't work well in a food processing ERP, and a food processing ERP doesn't work well in a manufacturing ERP. Each one has its own niche. Now you have crossovers where some do this, some do that, but generalized, you can get a manufacturing ERP. Then when you start thinking about manufacturing, tons of manufacturing. There's people that manufacture automotive engines. There's people that manufacture case goods, cabinets, furniture. There's people that manufacture cars. Each one of those is a different segment. And so while the ERP may handle manufacturing, the real, I guess, the drive to success would be having an implementer that really understands your business. And that's what Creative is all about. They specialize in woodwork manufacturing, so they understand this industry. They understand it well. So when you're talking about a finished left end versus a finished right end or an unfinished left end out of some material, they understand what you're talking about. They understand that you have machines and the machines need to be loaded up on a certain workflow. I need to batch jobs around the factory at a certain capacity. So they understand woodwork manufacturing very well. When you start looking at the implementation process of any software, if the people that's training you how to run it understand your business, the training process is simpler, faster, and also substantially more accurate because they understand what your pitfalls are. Because as we all know, as you get over the emotion of actually getting rolling, then you have to get into the details, and you start having to explain the details of how you manufacture. I hope you're talking to someone that understands how you manufacture, because that's really the critical step in success. Would you agree with that, Aaron?
Yeah, it's understanding the market space and really teaming up with a software and a partner that understands your business and can properly implement the ERP package into your business, right? And in the end, we want to put something in that can grow with the business over time.
Exactly, and you know, that's a real good point, because as you start thinking about where you want to grow, everyone, when you make a business decision, most people look in the world as they are today. And if you ask a lot of people today, where do you want to be 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, they still, or from now, they base that answer on their historical knowledge. But if you open your mind and you start thinking about where can the tool, the software, take me? Can it take me into e-commerce? Can it take me into a different kind of production instead of a standard production to a custom production? And can I mix standard and custom in the same runs? Can I start thinking of ways that the tools that I've invested in can help me manage my business so the people in the factory don't have to ask me questions? The software, the tools, the data management behind it drive the future for you. So it presents you the data. Have you looked at this? Have you looked at this? And have you looked at this? So anyway, with that said, I wanted to introduce Aaron, and I appreciate you taking the time today. We're going to go through once again, a 30,000-foot level of EPICOR, then we'll dive a little deeper. So with no further delays, Aaron, take her over.
Hey, my name is Aaron Connell. I'm the president and founder of Creative Technology. Prior to Creative Technology, I'd worked for almost 15 years in the woodworking industry for 2 different furniture factories as I was a director of engineering and director of IT for those companies. So got a background, got a passion for this industry. What we're going to talk about on the phone, I should not forget this one, but on with us is Karen Delgado, and she'll be running through the presentation of EPICOR ERP for the audience today. What we're going to look at first is our agenda, which is, partnerships. I'll talk a little bit about technology done economically, and then Karen will dive into the actual solution presentation. And at the end, Terry and I will answer some questions. If you can hold your questions till the end, that would be the best so that we can all answer them. We can open up and address them then. A little bit about the partnerships. So if we go down, Karen. Creative Technology, we've been around for over 14 years servicing clients in USA and Canada. We've got over 75 team members on our staff. We only do EPICOR ERP implementations, so we're not out there trying to do anything else. We focus on ERP. We are manufacturing focused. We are focused on the furniture industry. We're focused on engineer to order companies. And we've been supporting over 1,000 customers on EPICOR ERP over the last 14 plus years. We look at EPICOR software. EPICOR is a very large company. They're a $1 billion a year revenue company. They've got over 3,800 employees. They do business in 150 countries, and they support over 20,000 customers that are using their product today. And we're also partnered up with RSA. And a lot of you guys know RSA. RSA has been around for 20 years, right? Woodworking industry focus. They offer multiple solutions, and they're an active member out there with all the different associations. What I want to spend a few moments about is talking about technology. So if we go down here, is the key here is our industry capabilities, right? Stability and support. EPICOR has been around for 30 years, dominating in its industry, totally manufacturer focused with their product, right? They got a long-term customer care. They've got multiple deployment options. So if you want the solution on-premise or you want a cloud solution, it is the same software. There is no difference in the packages. EPICOR's got project focus, so supporting the estimate, plan, build, and install methodology that the woodworking industry needs, right? So it's truly optimized for furniture with the way we implement. We go to the next one. How do we do it better? We're designed for the industry, so we focus on packaging and implementation methodology of the software that's built for furniture, it's built for project manufacturers, right? And it's offering best-of-class functionality. We got deep manufacturing roots with the scheduling, planning, and quality modules within the solution. EPICOR is built on the Microsoft technology stack, right? So their cloud environments are in the Microsoft Azure environments. So it's a stability background and a backbone. And we have a strong partnership with EPICOR as we've been their top partner for over 5 years now. Go to the next slide. You know, what we're going to spend some time about and looking at today is how EPICOR applies to the woodworking industry and how we align with the industry. Okay, so you know, talking the language of the industry of the takeoff bid process to the planning, which is engineering, production, which is the build, delivery, fulfill, and then obviously accounting, which is equal to your profit, right? Everything we're going to talk about is going to follow this flow today. And our implementation methodology is built around this exact same flow to enable us to offer a streamlined plan for implementation for you guys. As we go to the next slide, our emerging enterprise methodology is what we call our streamlined methodology for the industry. So what we're offering here is a low cost, minimal disruption to the business, rapid implementation that is extensible. So we're laying the groundworks for the business to convert over from what you're doing today to be on a package like EPICOR ERP. And then we're laying the groundworks for you to grow your business within the software. What does this mean? You can go out and buy a lesser ERP system and try to save the cost, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to be needing to replace that system in 2 to 3 years. With a package like EPICOR, we're laying the groundworks up front and we're giving you the ability to build and grow your business for 10 to 20 years on the platform, right? EPICOR is constantly coming out with new upgrades, new features, new functionality that you can add to your business when you're ready, right? That is the scalability portion of the software. If we look down at our next slide, our emerging enterprise and what we're trying to do with it is a short implementation cycle. It's a rapid return on investment, offering reduced costs. When we talk about limits, business disruption, it's the amount of effort the team is putting in and the duration of time of the implementation. And then we're providing some turnkey solutions where we got pre-configured databases, test scripts, user instructions that we provide for the industry. All in all, we're laying, like I said, the groundworks to be able to grow your business. So we're putting in the fundamentals and allowing you to expand and scale when you are ready. So that's how we're going to offer the industry. And what I'll let now is Karen take it away on showing us the software.
Thank you, Aaron, and thank you everybody for joining us today. So as we know, we in the introduction, we said we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the world of ERP, going into the EPICOR ERP solution and how it fits the woodworking industry. So I usually like to start with just a quick intro into how the system looks. So you guys are familiar with the interface and what the users would see as soon as they start their day and log into the application. So for this, we're going to go right into the software. So I'm going to switch right here. And well, when you listen to the concept of ERP and how much it can do, sometimes it can become a little bit overwhelming if you haven't really been exposed to it. So the design of EPICOR ERP is meant to be very role-based, because we're going to have so many different individuals with different responsibilities working in the same application. We want to make sure it's efficient and intuitive for each and every one of them based on their responsibilities. So what you're looking at right now is my personal EPICOR home screen. Because I do have access to all the areas of the application, I do have a visibility to multiple different roles that I usually, run through in my demonstrations. But in real life, your users would log into the system would recognize who they are based on their position, and it would just display what they have access to based on the security clearance you've provided for them, and also to the home screen layout that you've published for their role. So if I log in and I'm in the sales department, it may look a little bit like this. I have some shortcuts for key processes that relate to sales, like order entry, project management, opportunity and estimating, tracking. We may also have specific metrics related to my area, and some to-do lists or just lists of open records and transactions that I may be interested in just looking at as soon as I start my day. So the key is that you have the main information you need to start your day and to work throughout the day without having to navigate through a bunch of different screens. Now, if you are in a purchasing role or in an inventory role, this might look a little bit different. Your shortcuts will be focused on that specific area as well as the metrics you're looking at. So these homepage dashboards are meant to give you that key information you need to kick off your activities and monitor them throughout the day, because the items that we have embedded here are showing real-time information. So whatever metric you're interested in following, we recommend that you publish it out there. You're constantly looking at what's happening in your system based on the input of everyone that's working in the same application. So everybody has one source of truth and what they're looking at. Now, what we're going to walk through next is going to be kind of a business process from a very high level of how a woodworking solution would look like in EPICOR. So we're going to go back here to our PowerPoint. I have a little sample workflow. So the key to this is that most of your activities would happen inside EPICOR ERP. We have enhanced it to integrate with other industry-specific solutions such as Alliance MillSoft to support specific requirements that we see in the industry that you already have a great solution for, and we didn't really need to reinvent the wheel for. So that's a good example for it. So in our business process we're following today, we would look at how we can bring data from one of these additional systems to kickstart a process inside EPICOR and take that estimating information from the takeoff and follow through all the different processes that belong in the ERP. So being able to manage a project and establish that, generate sales orders and sales metrics that you can monitor, send that over to production to fulfill those sales requirements and demands, and of course take that all through the production process flow where we're planning for materials, purchasing materials, managing inventory, and collecting labor information that will help us compare our estimates versus our actuals. And then of course process all our shipping transactions, sending the product out to their customers, maybe manage installations as well, and all the accounting and financial side of that. So all of this is happening in the same application. So that's the goal for today. Now, following this workflow, the key first element we need in an ERP, of course, is going to be a customer. So who we're working with and who we're engaging with to kickstart a project. So we have the ability to support CRM functionality where we can set up our customer profiles with all their main information, who they are, who's the sales rep assigned to that account, do they belong to a particular sales territory, everything that you would expect in a system that can help you manage that communication and that relationship with your customers. So you can set up your contact list, your shipping locations, everything that would be related to a particular account. You can also track all your historical transactions related to them. So if you get them on the line and they're asking about open orders, open production jobs, everything will be condensed in their customer profile. So there's no need to, look around a bunch of different spreadsheets or folders. Their profile will hold all their information. Everything you would ever want to know about them will be there. So it's important to have a customer in place because everything else kind of grows from that. The next key process there would be a request for a proposal or going through that bidding process. So in EPICOR, we have a native estimating solution called that opportunity quote entry process. You can use that right out of the box, but again, this is something that could be enhanced by integrating to Alliance MillSoft. So I'm going to start by showing you a little bit of how that integration looks, just so you guys can get some sense of the focus we have in the industry and our interest in making sure that you get the best tools that are out there. Let me just switch screens over here real quick. Okay, there we go. So this is an example of how Alliance MillSoft looks. Let me make sure my screen is updating. There's some technical difficulties sometimes. There we go. Okay, you should be able to see it now. So Alliance MillSoft is a takeoff solution, helps with your estimating process. And we don't really need to go into a lot of detail of how that works. There's a lot of great material in RSA's website where you guys can see how the solution works if you're not familiar with it. But the main thing here is that once a project has been established there and the estimating process is complete with all this great wealth of information and data, we can take it to EPICOR just with a click of a button. So that's this button right here that says convert to a project. What that does is that it takes the data out of Alliance MillSoft and pushes it into the EPICOR ERP solution to kickstart that estimation process. So you can do your estimating work here, and then once we click our button, we can see that information being translated into EPICOR. So we have a special solution that was created for estimate processing in MillSoft. This is on the EPICOR side now. And it creates essentially a project on this end as well. And it brings over all the items that were part of that estimate, which would be displayed in this section right here. And then each item on this list has this great detailed information on the bills of materials that resulted from that estimate, all the requirements on quantities, waste factors, material costs, everything comes over, as well as labor information with the hours and the details on the processes that will be required to potentially produce these items. And it starts off an estimate in EPICOR that takes us back to our standard opportunity quote entry screen. So from this point forward is fully EPICOR, but the great value of doing this is that you don't have to re-enter all that data manually. It's just swiftly coming over. And what this will be helpful for is having a base to compare all the actuals and everything that you're going to transact with in the ERP application and compare it to what you estimated. So it helps with eliminating redundant data entry and, of course, reducing the room for error when capturing that data. And again, it gives you something to start with. Now, when the data comes into EPICOR, we know what all the items that are part of that bid are. So like in this case, we have all these different cabinets and all these different items that are part of that project. And behind each of these items, if we look at our manufacturing details, there's all the routing information on the processes that will be required to run through our facility so we can produce them, as well as the bills of materials. So once we get a contract awarded off of this bid, all this information we brought over gets translated into production information. So now we have something that we can start our planning with, our planning and scheduling on the production side, and also our material planning for all these components and materials that we need to either get from our inventory or start purchasing for. So again, it's all going to start flowing as we just go through the natural transactions of an ERP, eliminating that redundant data entry. It's just going to flow along. So with that said, let me switch back here to my PowerPoint, and we can see some of the additional transactions that the ERP would require. So this is what we're just walking through, the estimating, the input into the ERP. When we have estimating data in EPICOR and those bids going, we also get good reporting tools that can help us track where we are in our open bids and things that we're actively working on the sales side. So we're going to have a lot of dashboards and reports where we can analyze who's working on what the current status of those opportunities is. So if we need to do follow-ups to contact the prospect, or if we need to contact our design and engineering team so they can provide certain input before we present a proposal, the application allows you to also take care of those management activities that help support the sales process. So you're going to get a lot of reports and metrics that you may not naturally see in a system that it's not all connected. And it also helps you streamline the communication with your users so they're notified when there's something that they need to follow up on. So it helps you to be a little bit more proactive in that sense as well. Once we have a bid that has been successfully submitted to the customer, the contract has been awarded, it comes time to establish a project. So the project will help us just manage all the different stages and phases that go into executing that. So, in this industry, we may be working in a residential or in a commercial industry, and either way, we need to break down our projects so we can efficiently manage the progress in our timeline and also the costs that go into making that, so we can have visibility to the revenue and the profitability associated with it. So in this example that I have here, we're pretending, our project is for a hospital, and we're building the cabinets for, the main lobby, for some of the ER departments or exam rooms, and maybe in another floor you have your nurses station, radiology departments, etc. So it's a very simple example where we can kind of illustrate how you would break down a potential project. Now, what's the value of having this breakdown? Well, first of all, you can assign timelines and phase statuses to each of those. So you want to be able to see, how far into your deadline you are for each of those requirements. It can also help you establish delivery dates. Especially if you're working maybe in a new construction or something, you might be communicating with your contractor and they say, we need the first floor to be ready by this date, and that can help you plan out your deliveries in that in meeting that timeline. So it gives you that individual control of each phase. It also helps you have visibility of the cost that you're going to incur in each of those rooms in this particular example. So when we brought over our details in our estimate, we tie those items to a specific phase in our project, so we know how much we're expected to spend in making those items from a labor and material perspective, and tying it to a phase gives us, that data to start with and eventually compare to our actuals. So it's a very traditional project management approach. It's all part of the ERP. And this will be the all-encompassing umbrella that will, everything will roll up to once we have been given the contract and we start working on it. You're going to get reports that can help you track the status of each of the projects that you're managing. So if you want to have a quick glance and see how you're doing budget versus actuals on everything that you're managing, you can run reports like this one and get a view of that from a high level on the top section here. But you also have the ability to drill down into specific transactional views for each project. So if you're interested in seeing, how you're doing on a specific phase, or who has reported time against the project, you can retrieve that easily from a single view. And again, from a single source of truth where you're looking at real-time information. So that's a little bit of the importance of reporting and how much you're getting just by working all in the same system without having to consolidate many different applications or spreadsheets as we normally see. Another important element of the process is establishing the sales orders. So that's something that happens when the contract gets awarded as well. So it kind of kicks off at the same time as the project, just a way for us to book our sale and associate the dollars to each of the elements of our project. So for the main lobby, the ER lobby, and exam room, there's different quantities of cabinets that we're doing at different prices. So it just allows us to distribute those dollars accordingly. And it also helps us plan out those delivery dates. So it ties back to what I was just talking about in the project management. And it also gives us flexibility to define delivery locations. So we can have different delivery addresses or shipping addresses to each of the items in our sales order. So we're working with, a project that has multiple buildings that we're delivering to. You can kind of break that down very easily, and that's part of the flexibility of our sales order structure. Now, once we have a sales order in place that is telling the system that we've, sold that product or sold those products as part of the project terms, and we need to start planning for production. How we're going to make these cabinets in this particular example. So production jobs are created. The production job is made up of both the routing information and the bill of materials information that we received from the estimating process. It may go through an engineering phase where we have fine-tuned that and it's gone through a deeper design review. So it can always be updated after the fact and during the production engineering. So this might change slightly from what was originally brought over from Alliance MillSoft. But the goal here is that we have a way to tell production how this is going to be built. Now, these records can be also updated through integrations to systems like Cabinet Vision, Microvellum, where you're finalizing that engineering design. So we have the ability to integrate with them to update anything we might need on the bill of material structure of our production jobs. So each job will then go through the planning and scheduling process. So from a production perspective, the system will be able to build a timeline and tell us what equipment, what machines this job will go through, and also what materials will be required for us to execute it. So if we need to get more material and kick purchase orders off, that's something that it's all originating from the production job structure. Now, in that topic, from the material requirements planning perspective, anything that we have defined in our bill as a component or as a raw material will have to be procured somehow. So whether it's something that you keep in your inventory through safety stock or minimum inventory levels, or something that you buy special for a project or that you purchase just directly to a project, the system's looking at those different types of demands and generating what we call purchasing suggestions. So of course, for these suggestions to work, you would have established, some configuration data in the beginning, and who we buy this from, what different suppliers we work with, what are their pricing and minimum order quantity requirements. All of that would have been set up in the application, so the system knows what suggestion to make, to the best of its ability. So this list that you're looking at right here is something that would be created by the system based on the demand we have, and also based on all that input configuration that you put into it. So it's a key factor in working with an ERP. We need to feed it the right data so that we can trust it and make sure that, you know, the output that it's generating is trustworthy, and our team and the users feel comfortable making decisions with, you know, what the system is generating. So as a buyer, I would go through my purchasing suggestions by supplier or whatever, you know, priority I want to work with, and then just select the items that I want to kick off to purchasing and start generating purchase orders. So the ERP would take care of all your purchasing process, sending over the PO documentation to your suppliers, what materials we require. The system also has the ability to kick off approval processes for POs. So if your buyers are limited to a certain dollar amount, we can submit it to managers for approvals and sign-offs. So all of that you'd see in a traditional purchasing system be part of the ERP. And once purchasing is submitted, we also take care of all the inventory management side of things. So whether we're doing receiving through a desktop version of the application, we also support all inventory transactions through handheld devices, through scanning, so we can streamline that process. But that's something that happens, you know, with the inventory coming in and inventory moving around a warehouse, have the ability to support all that. Once material is received, if we are purchasing directly to a project, it moves right into that production process. If we're receiving to inventory, then it's put away into a stock location and eventually taken to production, so it can be consumed and used for the products to be built out. Oh, sorry, let's go back down there. So once we have all the materials and everything, we would execute the production jobs. So the execution of the labor and the transactions that are processing the system can be done through the EPICOR ERP. We do have a manufacturing execution system where users can report quantities produced, and they can do that by the routing step, or they could do it at the end of the production run, just reporting the finished goods. Or we can also potentially integrate to other industry standard applications such as Production Coach. You want to run your production processing in an application like that, have the ability to bring data over that would just reflect those actuals back to the ERP. So we know when production's completed, and we can also get any information these applications may bring around, you know, the time spent in working in that. So we have labor hours and labor cost reflected on the EPICOR side that we can then report for. Once production's completed, of course, the next natural step would be to ship out the product, sort it out, send it out, and the application has the ability to integrate with the shipping carriers, FedEx, UPS, LTL carriers, and bring over tracking information, generate shipping labels, everything that you would traditionally see. We can do that directly from the ERP. Again, following that same theme of eliminating the redundant data entry, we can send over all those details to the carriers and not having to retype anything on their website or on their portal. So all along, all the processes we've walked through, they've been sending information to the next point forward so that we don't have to, you know, remember to type something in. It's all kind of flowing along nicely. So the customer shipment being one of those last steps would take the product out and document that delivery when it's completed. Optionally, I mean, depending on your business, you may also have installation processes. Those can be defined as part of the phases of your project, where you can charge time and expenses for the travel you may be doing to do these on-site work. We can also support subcontracted processes in case you are using any outside service providers for installation or any other of the production processes that go into making the products you're delivering. So it can all be supported through the ERP. And eventually, one of the last steps, definitely not the least important, is going to be the accounting. So throughout everything that you do in EPICOR, the base of it is the financials. So every transaction that we do in inventory, receiving, purchasing is, being reflected on the financial side of the system. So the goal is that the ERP also takes care of that for you. You don't have to, use a third-party application for that. It's meant to replace that, because all your transactions are already taking place in one system. There's no need to, repeat all that in an additional software. So accounting, of course, is going to be part of it, whether you are invoicing and billing your customers at the time of shipment, or if you're doing milestone type billing or cost plus, time and materials, whatever that billing methodology is, we can support it in the ERP. And of course, cash receiving, accounts payable, it's all part of the software, as well as your financial reporting. So your generation of income statements, balance sheets, looking at your cash flow, analyzing your margins, everything will be done in the system. Whether you're more fond of kind of traditional reports, such as the one on the left, or more graphical representations of the data, we can support both flavors and help you keep track of your business and giving you the best information so you can make informed decisions on what improvements you need to make. And again, the information you're getting from estimated versus actuals, analyzing your profitability, making sure you are being successful on every project is going to be one of the key benefits of having an ERP. So with that said, I think that pretty much covers that high-level flow I wanted to take you through today. We still have several minutes left, so we want to open the room for questions. You can send them over via the chat, and glad to answer.
Karen, we sure appreciate you.
Yes, thank you, Karen.
Thank you, guys.
Very informative, and I would make one comment also to Aaron, is you kind of glossed over being like the top 5 integrator, but if you really understand your knowledge and your commitment to this industry, you've year after year after year been the top integrator implementer in this industry. Nobody else comes close in this industry, and that's just true.
Yep.
So questions. We always get this question. Is the first one is just real simple. If they invest in ERP, an average system, and he's got a note up here of 10 users, not a gross number, but 10 users. If they started at a entry level 10 users, 2 questions. Roughly ideal, what would the investment be in dollars, and what would the investment be in time before they start seeing an ROI?
Yeah, so something like that is going to be probably about first year cost of about $100,000, right around that range for them to get the software and the software implemented, and they should start seeing that ROI on that software probably within a few months after going live with the software. So it takes a little while to adopt and change your business to work on an ERP platform, and then you start tightening the screws, so to speak, about where do you want to get the proper information and where are the benefits coming from. And then from there, you just continue to do that same process to get more ROI out of the software every year, right? You don't want to just implement it and have it sit stagnant.
Exactly. It's always a continuing process to improve. You mentioned earlier in a discussion, engineer to order. Could you just touch on the definition of engineer to order versus made to order and make to stock?
Yeah, truly the engineer to order side is really that custom, right? Where I'm making it very unique for this particular order. And EPICOR has a unique capability, which is called part on the fly, where you can build it, engineer it, and do everything through the system without ever having to create parts, without ever having to create all the detailed bill materials underneath that part. And that can link to the CAD systems as well.
Perfect. And make to stock would be if you have stock parts you want to build for, like standard toe kicks or stuff like that. You want to build a stock and pull from stock and mix it with the custom engineering at the same time?
Correct. So you're going to build your stock on certain, what I would call assemblies, right, where you're building something or a particular part. But if something calls out that part, it will just use that part in your system as it flows through if it's available. And then you'll just get replenishment orders to rebuild your stock, right? As it's looking at your stock levels, your min maxes, your safety stock, and telling the system what needs to be done and when do you need to build more.
Exactly. And a good example might be, standard drawer side widths stocked in 6-foot lengths, and you just consume them as you build the engineered to order products, and it replenishes stock as they're consumed based on min max. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. If next question, we know you in the demonstration we talked about linking to Alliance MillSoft for estimating, but it links to several sources on the front end, and for quoting a simple spreadsheet, e-commerce, things like that. But does it also link in the back end? Like if I want to send data out to other sources, how flexible is it in linking to other products?
You can use, basically there's connectors and there's platforms to allow you to basically integrate to anything. At this point, with technology the way it is today, integrated solutions are the wave of the future. Pulling everything in and being able to push everything out in a manner that gives a single source of truth, right? That's all what it's about, and we provide all those avenues, and the platform of EPICOR has the flexibility and those tools ready to go.
You made a comment. The question is, can you kind of explain a little bit about on-premise versus cloud-based? What would a typical shop look at in investment in hardware between the two? And are both SQL servers, or is there a different platform up in the cloud?
So in the cloud, you're on the EPICOR environment, which they're providing all the database infrastructure behind it. So you're not doing anything with a licensing on that. When you're on premise, you have to buy the server hardware, you have to maintain the server hardware, you have to maintain the networks, the database, the licensing. All that is up to you to manage, right? Because you're in control and it's in your factory, it's in your building. When you go to cloud, you're renting the space in the Azure environment, which is already pre-configured, set up, and EPICOR gives you access to your system. So you just log in via a client or any application, and boom, you get access to your data and your systems.
Is
you're
there
not doing any maintenance on it.
I understand. Is there a difference in the question is a difference in speed, but do you notice a difference between the two?
No. We've got customers on both different variations, and then we also have clients that we do hosting for, right? Where we're their outsourced IT department. So they're not really comfortable with full cloud. They want that control, but yet we set them up in a private environment that we host in servers, and we host, and when we manage them for the companies to make sure they're accessible and running optimally.
Perfect. The next question is it's a little bit of a statement and a question. As they run their business, they tend to forget things. Forgetting to notify the general contractor about this, or forgetting to go through a process. Is there anything in the system that kind of keeps them on task of don't forget this, make sure you do this, reminders, things like that?
Yeah, with anything in the system, depending on what you're trying to do, there is task sets that are set up that basically give you a list of things that have to be done. And then you can prevent things from happening down the road if the task hasn't been completed. So you can make them mandatory, you can make them sequential, you can make them run in parallel. So there's some flexibility, and those really are helpful when you're doing a project. So I've established a project, I'm working certain rooms, I'm doing certain levels of a building, that all applies there.
Understand. And it follows up with this question. If you can set reminders and tasks, can I automatically alert other people that, hey, you need to be doing this too? Or do I have to manually task myself to call them and email them or whatever?
Yeah, so we have a flexibility tool in the system, which is a business process management that allows you to set up any kind of business roles you want to do alerts, emails based on triggers in the system. So whether that's a task, it's something else, you can have alerts and messaging sent out to multiple people in your business so that they're aware of what's going on.
Perfect. There's last question. Is there messaging between users?
So yeah, we do have what is known as a social platform, right? Where you can then message back and forth within the software around certain topics, and then it's tagged into those so that people can see the history of the communication. So basically, you can eliminate the need for email back and forth if you'd like to go there with your business.
Great. Let me just kind of review and see if I missed anything else. We talked about linking into, I wanted to find one other question, in linking to different products in and out of EPICOR. When you think about data management, and you use the word connector hub, I can easily link to, if I'm running Cabinet Vision, WoodCAD CAM, SolidWorks, AutoCAD. If they have data, they can link the data into the ERP. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's already an integration tool that EPICOR comes with. It's a module that's sold to integrate the CAD system for SolidWorks and AutoCAD, and there's Microvel and WoodCAD CAM, right? To then pull those engineering specs into the ERP and then match and update your bill of materials. So that's that's a module that is already existent today.
Gotcha. And expanding on that just a tad bit is if you're running an engineering tool like WoodCAD CAM and it produces the documents, drawings, specs, the different data that's going to be brought into the ERP, can you organize the documents in a manner that if purchasing needs to look at a document, or assembly needs to look at a document, or invoicing needs to look at a document, they can go find them fairly easy?
Yep, we have an attachment functionality in the system that then would flow through to the different levels of the business as it goes through the process, right? So then everyone from purchasing to sales can go see what drawings are specific to that particular order or a part.
I understand. Thank you. And that's the end of the questions, but I have one of my own, if you don't mind. You know that a lot of people, they'll I think I'm too small to invest in an ERP, or I'm too custom. Nobody can do it the way I'm doing it, or there's 1,000 excuses. But what I find in most people in discussing ERP is they're really scared about failure at the end of the day. It's, if I invest in this and I'm going to fail, I'd just rather not even start the journey. What could you say to address that with the understanding that it's the software and it's customized and it'll be successful with a certain set of environments? Can you expand on that?
Yeah. So typically where we see failures in ERP implementations is when there's not a top-down support. When I say top-down, the ownership is not behind the project and driving the change in the corporation. So then people just decide, do I need to go through this effort? And then you get challenges and so on and so forth. The other side of that is you want to go into an ERP adopting best practices as much as you can. Everybody goes in saying, we're unique, we're unique, we're unique. I've been doing this for a long time. Businesses are not unique. They have a unique process that they've grown up around and done it one way for 15 years, but it doesn't mean it's always the right way. So you have to be able to learn and adopt to what the best practices are to get the most out of the ERP and help your business grow. And that usually causes some failure because people don't want to change. And then next thing you know, you're trying to make the ERP work exactly how your business process used to work, and that's a recipe for failure.
Absolutely. That makes so much sense. If you look at what you can do, not what you did, you more than likely will be successful. If you focus on the past you're really trying to take today's technology and make it work in the past, and it never works well.
Nope. And you want to get the most benefits that you can out of the ERP, and you want to let the ERP provide you the most return on investment as quickly as possible. And adopting those best practices, everything you read in the industry, everything you read in the market space is going to tell you that.
Okay. You know, and I'm just going to throw one more curveball at you, and this is just an interesting observation. I know some companies that really analyze an ERP decision. I've actually joked about it. I know companies that'll spend 6 figures trying to make a decision to buy a 6-figure product. And is there any guidance on your end about how to avoid that conflict and move forward intelligently?
Most of the time, it's they're not truly invested in doing it, right? And so you end up spending the time researching, but you're not really confident about pulling the trigger on anything. And that's what you want to avoid. If you know what you're going to do and where you want to go with your business, and you know where your pain points are today that you're trying to solve with an ERP, making the decision is going to be clear as day to you once you get through that with your ERP provider, right? So they're going to come in and show you how they can solve those business problems, and that's should be the deciding factor for the business, right? How is it going to add efficiencies, and how is it going to add value to my business and fix these pain points and allow me to grow?
It's really focused.
Hey, Terry. Terry, I have a question that I'd like to find out. First off, I really want to express my appreciation for our partnership with Creative. It's a very special. How often do you find someone that's an expert in ERP and in woodworking or architectural millwork? Usually doesn't happen. But one of the things that I've learned about is the importance of discovery. And one of the reasons why Aaron's company is the #1 channel for EPICOR is I believe they do the best discovery. Could you expand on that, Aaron?
Yeah, it's really us trying to get a good understanding of the business and the reasons behind ERP and what you're trying to achieve with ERP up front, so that by the time we get to demonstrate the software and what it can do, we've taken in what we know about your business and we're applying it to the demonstration, so you can kind of see what your business is going to be like on the ERP. And that's the experience we want to have with you in our customers, right? Is we want to really align ourselves up so we understand the business in the initial meeting, so that by the time we come out and we're demonstrating software, the customer and the prospect are getting comfortable that, oh, this is what it'd be like. I see the benefits. I can see how this is going to work in my business, right? And that's what we want to be showing to them. Yeah,
and one of the things that a lot of the other ERP companies, they're going to want to charge to do proper discovery, whereas a combination of the team here of RSA and Creative, we're going to do the discovery, and we're not going to charge to do that. We're going to go in there and roll up our sleeves, find out the important information, and deal with it. And so when we come to you during a demonstration of the software, we know you, and we're not charging for that. We're going to invest our time and resources to find it out, so we do it right from start to end. That's what I find unique about this.
Yep, and the other thing that should be considered as unique is the differentiator for us compared to every other ERP vendor and every other partner that's trying to implement ERP is we're doing things by process. We're not doing things by a module that checks off a box that we're selling you something. We're trying to understand all the processes that are needed within the business, and that allows us to drive to what are we going to need to implement and what do you need to run your business, right? So identifying what you do in your business through your processes allows us to develop what you need to buy for software and what needs to be implemented in your first phase or your second phase of your implementation. And that's very different than most companies in the market.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt here.
That's quite all right. we're out of time. Well, I want to thank everyone for attending. I want to thank Aaron and even Roger for popping in. We appreciate your thoughts and observations. And we'd appreciate it at the end of the webinar. There's a evaluation form. Appreciate if you'd respond. And our next one starts in a few minutes. Will be about managing data in optimization and nesting. Hope you get to join us. Thanks again. Appreciate it, Aaron.
Thank you. Bye.